The crisp mountain air filled Scott's lungs as he carved through the fresh powder. It was a perfect day for skiing in Park City, Utah. The sun glinted off the snow and the world seemed to sparkle. Laughter echoed across the slopes as skiers, bundled in brightly colored jackets, enjoyed the winter wonderland. Scott, an experienced skier, felt the familiar rush of adrenaline as he navigated the slopes. He was completely absorbed in the moment, unaware that his life was about to change forever. As he rounded a bend, his ski caught an icy patch hidden beneath the surface. He felt a jolt, a sickening crack, and then he was tumbling. The world spun into a dizzying blur of white and blue. Pain shot through his hand, intense and immediate. As he skidded to a stop, his gloves slowly filled with a warm, sticky wetness. It was then that Scott realized the severity of his injury. His thumb, twisted at an unnatural angle, throbbed with excruciating pain. Fear began to creep in as he realized he was alone, his cries for help swallowed by the vastness of the mountain. He knew he needed to get help quickly, but the pain was almost unbearable. Little did he know that this accident, this moment of fear and pain, would become the catalyst for a profound spiritual awakening, an experience that would forever alter his perspective on life and death. His journey from the snowy slopes of Park City to the brink of the afterlife was about to begin. The ski patrol arrived quickly, their arrival a welcome sight in the blinding whiteness. They assessed the situation, their faces grim as they gently immobilized his injured hand. The searing pain intensified with every movement, and Scott gritted his teeth, his breath coming in short, shallow gasps. He was vaguely aware of being loaded onto a stretcher, the world tilting precariously as they navigated the steep slope. His vision began to blur, the edges of his world fading in and out of focus. The ambulance ride was a blur of sirens and flashing lights, the rhythmic thump of his heart a steady counterpoint to the chaos unfolding around him. He clung to consciousness, the throbbing pain in his hand a constant reminder of the accident. As they wheeled him into the brightly lit emergency room, a wave of nausea washed over him. He felt himself slipping away, the world around him dissolving into a hazy, indistinct dream. The last thing he remembered was the concerned faces of the medical staff hovering over him, their voices muffled and distant like whispers carried on the wind. Then everything went dark. He was enveloped in a silent, all-encompassing void. He had no sense of time, no awareness of his body, only the profound stillness of nothingness. It was a strange, unsettling peace, a complete absence of everything he had ever known. He drifted in this state of oblivion, time losing all meaning. He couldn't have said how long he was suspended in this in-between place. But gradually, a faint glimmer of light began to pierce the darkness. It grew slowly, hesitantly, like the first rays of dawn breaking over a distant horizon. As the light intensified, he became aware of a sensation, a feeling of lightness and buoyancy, as if he were floating on air. He opened his eyes, expecting to see the sterile white ceiling of the hospital room. Instead, he found himself in a field of vibrant green grass, softer than anything he had ever felt. Wildflowers in every color imaginable swayed gently in the breeze, their sweet fragrance filling the air. Towering trees, their branches reaching towards the heavens like outstretched arms, lined the perimeter of the meadow. Above him, a sky of the most brilliant blue he had ever seen stretched out endlessly. A sense of profound peace washed over him, a peace so deep and all-encompassing that it seemed to permeate every cell of his being. Fear, pain, anxiety, all the burdens he had carried in his life simply vanished. In their place was a sense of overwhelming love and acceptance, a feeling of coming home after a long and arduous journey. He realized he was no longer in his physical body. He seemed to exist as pure consciousness, a being of light and energy. He could move effortlessly, his thoughts translating into instant movement. He soared over the meadow, reveling in the sensation of freedom and weightlessness. He felt a presence near him, a being of pure light and love. Though he couldn't see it in any traditional sense, he could feel its warmth and compassion. It didn't speak in words, but communicated through a flow of pure understanding, a silent communion of souls. He understood that he was being shown the true nature of reality, a reality that transcended the limitations of the physical world. Time, as he understood it, had ceased to exist. He was immersed in an eternal now, a realm where past and future merged into a single, timeless moment. As he explored this wondrous realm, he began to understand that death, as we fear it, was an illusion. It was simply a transition, a passing from one state of being to another. Section 4. The essence of being. He was filled with a sense of wonder and awe, his earthly concerns seeming trivial and insignificant in the face of this grand, eternal perspective. He was then gently guided towards what seemed like a luminous pool of water. As he gazed into its depths, he saw images from his life flash before him. Every thought, every action, every interaction he had ever had was reflected in the pool's shimmering surface. He felt a presence beside him, not judgmental but filled with understanding. He realized he was being judged, not for his individual actions, but for the essence of his being. It wasn't about keeping score, but about the love he had given and received, the kindness he had shown, and the impact he had made on the lives of others. It was about the intention behind his actions, the love that fueled his spirit. He felt a sense of peace knowing that his life had meaning, that even the smallest acts of kindness had rippled outward, creating a positive impact on the world. He understood that life wasn't about accumulating wealth or achievements, but about the love we shared, the connections we made, and the difference we made in the lives of others. It was a profound and humbling realization, one that filled him with a deep sense of gratitude for the gift of life. He felt a longing for his loved ones, a desire to comfort them, to tell them that death wasn't the end. He wanted to share the profound peace and love he was experiencing, to ease their fear and uncertainty, but he knew his time in this realm was not yet over. Section 5. Reluctant return. He felt a pull, a gentle tug back towards the world he had left behind. He knew he couldn't stay in this idyllic paradise, not yet. He had unfinished business, lessons to learn and love to share. As much as he longed to remain in this realm of peace and beauty, he knew he had to return. A part of him resisted, clinging to the overwhelming love and serenity he had found. He didn't want to leave this perfect place, to return to a world of pain, suffering, and uncertainty. But deep down he knew he had to go back. He had a purpose, a mission to fulfill. The pull grew stronger, and he felt himself being drawn back towards the darkness. He closed his eyes, surrendering to the inevitable. The meadow with its vibrant colors and sweet fragrances, the feeling of peace and unconditional love, began to fade. He clung to the memory of the experience, knowing that it would sustain him in the days, weeks, and years to come. Then he felt a jolt, a sudden rush of sensation. He was back in his body, the familiar weight of it both strange and comforting. He opened his eyes, the bright lights of the hospital room momentarily blinding. He could hear the steady beep of machines, the muffled voices of medical staff in the hallway. He was alive. He'd returned. Section 6. Life after death. The experience, however, was not something he could simply brush aside. It had irrevocably altered his perception of life, death, and everything in between. He had gazed into the abyss and emerged transformed. The fear of death, once a shadow lurking in the recesses of his mind, had completely vanished. He now understood that death was not an ending but a transition, a passing from one state of being to another. This newfound understanding brought with it a profound sense of peace. He no longer feared the unknown, for he had caught a glimpse of what lay beyond the veil. He knew that death was not something to be feared, but a natural part of life's grand cycle. This realization freed him from the grip of fear, allowing him to live more fully in the present moment. The experience also brought about a profound shift in his priorities. Material possessions and worldly success paled in comparison to the importance of love, compassion, and connection. He realized that life was precious and fleeting, and he was determined to live each day to the fullest, embracing every moment with gratitude and joy. He felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for his family, his friends, and the simple joys of life. He had been given a second chance, and he was determined to make the most of it. He resolved to live a life filled with purpose, a life dedicated to love, kindness, and service to others. He wanted to share his story, to offer hope to those struggling with fear and uncertainty. He knew that his experience, though deeply personal, held a universal message, a message that transcended culture, religion, and belief systems.